What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Lexi J Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Lexi Johnson, and this is my husband and co-host, Brett Johnson. And this week, you may feel a little convicted. We're going to ask you some serious questions. I just want you to think about them deeply. So this is kind of a little self-audit or inventory that I encourage my members to take often. I talk about it with my team a lot, and then Brett and I think it's one of the reasons that we have a really strong relationship and we're very goal-oriented, because these are the topics that we converse about a lot. But I just want for a second you to imagine, okay, so we're in May right now. Okay, so for sake of cliche, I'm going to avoid January 1st, and we're just going to imagine December 1st Lexi, and December 1st Brett, and December 1st you. You wake up on December 1st, and what does that person look like in a perfect world? If everything is going your way, December 1st Lexi is going to be smarter than I currently stand. I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to have stronger relationships. And in order to do that, in order for me to wake up December 1st in that state, to be stronger, more successful in my business, have richer relationships, feel more confident in my skin, in order for that to happen, I've got to put some steps into place, right? And I have to follow through consistently. There's no way that I'm going to wake up December 1st and just magically be in a better state. And that's not like to say that I'm in a place where I am just like desperately scratching to make changes, but maybe that's where you're sitting right now and you're thinking, all right, well, December 1st, I'm going to wake up and everything's going to change. I'm going to be better. But that doesn't happen overnight. Those quantum leaps where, everything changes and it's seemingly overnight, it doesn't happen that way. It's just little by little scratching and just making those incremental changes. And that's exactly what we want to talk about today, is just taking those actions and taking those required steps in order to get where you want to go, whether that is you're waking up December 1st, and like I said, you can insert your own date there, but whether you're financially in a better position, you're in a better physical or mental state, your relationships are healthier, fill in the blank here. The steps have to be taken into place, and we just want to kind of call you out. Are you taking action on those things? Because if you're not taking action today and you're not taking action tomorrow, then December 1st you is going to wake up exactly as May 17th you is, right?
100%. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that gets overlooked is writing it down. I mean, we both are really good about writing down our goals, and there's a lot of power in that, because whenever you write something down, it automatically becomes more permanent in your mind. It automatically becomes something that is important to you, because it's not just this fictitious thing that you created in your head that you think you want to do. Now it's like, it's a reality. I'm going to do this thing.
Are you meaning in terms of long-term goals? Like, okay, December 1st, I want to have this much in the bank. I want to have whatever, this many pounds lost, or I want to hit this PR.
I would still consider that a short-term goal.
Okay, well,
but yes.
I'm saying, okay, so, and I was thinking of it more, so this is kind of nice that we can bounce off each other, because I am obsessive about writing down day to day, like what I need to do today. And because I can get overly distracted or anything, I have to focus on what I have in my control right now in this moment. So I am obsessive about a to-do list, a daily to-do list.
Oh no, I am too. Yeah, I have a daily task list, that I refer to and outline each morning. This is what I'm going to do today. But I still consider a short-term goal personally what's going to happen within the next 12 months. Like whenever I set out, are you on the same page as me?
Yeah, go.
No, go ahead.
No, go.
Whenever I set out at the beginning of the year, I write down, that's what I'm getting at. I write down what my 2023 goals are, 2024 goals, and I reassess, reevaluate every year. But whenever I write that down, it's something I can refer back to, and it's also a tool that I can use along the way and measure my progress.
Yeah, I think a lot of gap in people's games is just avoiding those audits, and you can't manage what you don't measure. And if you don't take that inventory and look at, okay, these are where we have some deficits, these are where, you can fill those gaps in your game. It is a very simple process, but if you just insist on turning a blind eye to it, then I don't think that it's a surprise that you end up exactly where you have been.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing that people do is that they say, like you said, they're going to start it later. The big thing is starting it today.
Last week you said you'd start on Monday. This week you said you'll start June 1st.
Because in your head you think that, well, I have this happening right now, and it would be so much easier if I didn't have this happening. So it'll be a lot easier come June. And when June rolls around, I won't have this going on anymore. So
we always have this illusion in our heads that time in the future is going to be less hectic, or our schedules will somehow clear up, but that never happens. And you're going to start that business when life is less crazy, and you're going to start tracking your food and getting into a consistent workout routine when the kids are in school. But then the kids are in school and now they have sports and now they have extracurriculars, and you just took on another role at work, and then it just continues. Like, that time is going to continue to be filled in something, and if you're not intentional about making it productive towards what you want to the life you want to create, it's not going to insert itself. You have to be assertive in doing that and making sure that you're, I always say this, like, you're putting your oxygen mask on first. What are your priorities, and what actions are you taking in order to make it happen? Yeah.
I think one of the biggest fallacies people tell themselves is that in the future, like, I'm not in control right now, but in, future me is going to be in control. Like, whenever this day comes, like, I'm going to have everything right under my thumb.
Which is so funny because they let the day-to-day, and I can fall victim to this also, so I say they, and I am definitely part of that they. But we let that image of our future where we have all of our ducks in a row and stuff, but you don't realize that in order to get to that point where you have all your shit together, like, you have to buckle down today. You have to complete those tasks today. You have to start getting into a routine and making those hard decisions and carving out time to make those things happen today. Otherwise, that fictitious time you were mentioning, like, it'll be fictitious forever.
Right. How do you expect future you to be a success in anything if you don't start putting the plan in place today to be successful then? I mean, all of a sudden, things aren't just going to shift for you on June 1st because the calendar changed another day. That doesn't change anything at all. You're in the exact same position you were. You're going to be in the exact same position you were on that future day.
Yeah. That's why I like using that example of December 1st wakes up, what do you want to be like? Because it's close enough in the future where you can imagine it, and it's also near enough that you need to take immediate action. It gives you a little sense of urgency, because if you say, 5 years from now, you're thinking, okay, 5 years ago, that was forever. 5 years ago, I was in a completely different state. I was still in college. I've got time to figure out. But if you say December 1st, that's going to be here before you know it, and you need to start taking action now. And you can also recognize that there's a substantial enough amount of time that progress can be made, but it's also within grasp that you have that sense of urgency. So I think it's a nice intermediate, and it just gives you it feels much more realistic, at least to me. Like I said, I can get short-sighted and sometimes overwhelmed by long-term goals. So I think that having that kind of intermediate, all right, December 1st, Lexi needs to have better relationships. What's that mean? I'm being intentional about calling my grandparents. If I expect to wake up on December 1st with better savings, then I need to start practicing more frugal shopping or whatever. Fill in the blank of what you want. But the bottom line is, how many times have you said you wanted to change? How many actions have you taken in order to make that happen? If it's going to happen eventually, or if it's going to happen and you're not putting those spots in, or those wheels in motion right now, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to hit a rock bottom where you don't have any other choice but to make a change. But you've been talking about it for so long. Do you want to wait until it gets to a point where you just can't take it anymore, or do you want to start putting those pieces in place today?
Right. I think one of the biggest things that people neglect is asking themselves the real question, and that is, if you're not starting it now, why aren't you starting it? And that begs the real answer is because it's not important to you.
Yeah, it's not
a priority. And that's an uncomfortable thing to really accept and be able to tell yourself. And people go all throughout their lives never actually answering that question to themselves. Like we all ask each other these questions. Rarely do we ask ourselves these deep internal questions. And whenever you start asking yourself those questions, and it's something that you have to do perpetually, like it's not a one and done thing, but whenever you assess your life and where you're at right now, if you're not where you want to be, and you avoid asking yourself these hard questions, then chances are you're not going to move forward. You're not going to get over that hump because you're just avoiding the problem. Like, you're not asking yourself, why am I not making any progress? And most of the time it's because you're unwilling to make a change. And that unwillingness to do anything different is keeping you exactly where you're at. Are you overweight? Are you broke? Are you in a job that you don't want anymore? Like, all these different things, there's a simple answer to the question. It's, are you doing what you need to get yourself out of that situation? And most of the time the answer is no.
And the longer you stall, in my experience, just the longer you stall, the larger it becomes in your head. Action cures fear. So 99 times out of 100, whatever you're anxious about, whatever you're avoiding that you know you need to make that change, biting the bullet is going to it'll knock off half the edge, I swear. Like, if you're anxious about having a hard conversation with a significant other, or you're anxious about a promotion at work, or a job interview, working out, tracking your food, anything like that, starting is, I'm not going to say it's the hardest part because there are going to be trials and tribulations along the way, but it is the commitment itself. That initial commitment is one of the scariest things. And if you commit and you actually take that first step and you start getting some momentum, then it feels good. Because also, if you're getting started at something new, you can rack up so many wins early on because you're taking big strides. Mm-hmm. Like, they are small, like little by little adds up. But when it's new, and we'll take running, for example. It could be the first time you ever ran a half mile without stopping. And then before long, you're running a full mile without stopping. And you're continually hitting those milestones, and it's exciting because then you have those achievements along the way. Honestly, when you've been at it for a really long time and you're consistently executing, it's a lot harder to gain any sort of milestone and get that.
Yeah, it gets harder and harder to really see that progress. It's easier to just taper off.
Because the gains are such small.
Plateau.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's liberating in the beginning because you start seeing those gains. They happen so fast. And there's just like a constant positive feedback loop. And then that positive feedback loop eventually just becomes like, it starts to dissipate. You don't see it. You don't feel it as much because it's your norm. Like, then you just establish a standard. And that's what we've discussed before. You know, we've gone over like goals and standards. Like, what's the difference between the two?
But I want to stop you really quick because when you said when you have established the norm and it's no longer exciting or new, the initial like workout soreness is gone. You're no longer having to consciously think about prepping your food or taking X amount out of your paycheck because you're saving more responsibly. That is not the time to quit. That is not the time to jump ship to something else that's new and exciting just because the novelty is worn off. That's the good stuff. And that's when you can really start developing momentum. And momentum is so hard to establish, but once you have it, it is so important to continue it. Like, when that's one of my like biggest complaints about traveling a lot. And I've traveled a lot recently. It's just, it kind of stunts your momentum, and it's really, really hard to gain traction all over again. And then when you have another engagement or obligation, whatever, then it stunts it all over again. And it is so frustrating. If you know me, or if you're an Enneagram 3, I feel like you can recognize that. But that is one of the things that I bitch to Brett about all the time, because I'm like, I just got going and I feel like I'm getting my knees or chopped off at the knees again.
Yeah, that does suck. Yeah, when you're in the flow and then you can't really do anything about it. I mean, that's just part of it. And keeping going while you're traveling, or keeping, you know, your habits in motion whenever you're not in your normal day to day, that's why it's so important, because, you know, you want to try to keep that momentum going as much as you possibly can. You don't want to just stop it, you know, dead in its tracks and just leave it behind and say, okay, well, I'll pick it up whenever I get home. It's really hard, but it is so worth it.
Yeah, it's really rewarding. And I crave that feeling of, it's not stagnicity and it's not complacency. I don't really know how to describe it, but just flow. Yeah, I crave being in that routine and having that flow, and I know exactly what's coming next. And maybe it's like an anxious personality where you just want to know the next move, but having that sense of control throughout your day is invaluable to me.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. Going back to, establishing the standards, like whenever you get to the point where it's no longer something that you have to make, like it's not a conscious thing that you have to tell yourself, okay, well, I'm going to get my meal prep, take it with me to work. I'm going to, work out first thing. I'm going to read, like these things just become habits. That's the beauty of these positive habits that you create. And then it establishes these standards, and you're not even thinking about it anymore. It's just your day to day. It's not as exciting at that point. Like we were saying, that's where the novelty starts to wear off. But that is the coolest part. That's whenever you've just like established yourself as this constant presence. Like nobody can take that away from you, because you're holding such a high standard. Nobody can take that away from you. And it's a very cool thing.
I think that you can kind of draw parallels between this and just a relationship. So when you're getting started and you're like in the honeymoon phase and you're getting to know each other and getting like finding out all of your different quirks and just learning about each other, everything is brand new and it's exciting. And like that honeymoon phase is like when the novelty is still there. Everything's very exciting. But once you're comfortable and you know every secret about that person, you can pee with the door open, like you're on cruise control, but you're still, it doesn't make it any less enjoyable. It doesn't make it any less valuable, because you're no longer surprised every single day or, excited by a new fun quirk you just learned about that person. Right. And
right.
That relationship still serves you, just like the routine and habits that you're establishing. I don't think that you throw out your relationship when you no longer have new things to learn about that person. Just like you shouldn't throw out a new routine or a routine once it's more established into your day to day.
Right.
That's when the good stuff happens.
Right. But if you're somebody who's never actually taken that first step forward, and you make all these excuses as to why you're not ready to do it, or you have this in your life right now, so it just doesn't make sense for you to start because you think that you'll just quit, or it's just going to be too hard, then honestly, just ask that question to yourself, like, really, why am I not doing this? If
you're one that says, I don't have time to work out, say, I don't work out because it's not a priority to me. Like, just reframe that. If I don't have time to call my grandparents, I don't call my grandparents because it's not a priority. That's a gut punch. Like, fill in the blank as to whatever you keep saying you'll make time for later when life gets less hectic, and then just rephrase it and say, I don't do that because it's not a priority. And just evaluate how that tastes coming out, because it sucks when you call yourself out like that, but it's important to do. Otherwise, you're going to continue being in this phase where it's always a matter of time's fault and it's not yours, but you're spending that time doing things. And as much as we like to think that, we are well-oiled machines that always operate on 100% productivity, that's not true at all. And we have a lot of wasted time that could be used much more valuably and benefit you down the road, benefit your family down the road. That's another really big thing, is that you have people that count on you, and you use them as the reason why you don't do those things, as the reason why you can't work out, you can't take care of yourself, because these people they draw so much from you. They should be the reason that you do those things, because you're not delivering on your potential if you're not taking care of yourself. Whatever those roles are, those million hats that you juggle, you are absolutely falling short to your potential if you're not first taking care of yourself. If you're not executing on standards that you have established for yourself day in and day out, then you're dropping the ball in every other realm.
Yeah. I think if this is something that you struggle with a lot, your inability to take action in something, or your inability to recognize a standard that you should be holding, just your unwillingness to take responsibility for things in your life. One of the best books that I've ever read is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and I think that book is a good book for anybody in any realm, even if you're a well-oiled machine in terms of leadership and just in the personal development space. If you have a good head on your shoulders, Extreme Ownership is a fantastic book. So I would recommend that to anybody who struggles with what we're talking about here, or even if you feel like you've got your feet under you and you've got a good start, I'd still recommend it.
Yeah, it's an excellent book. He's got several really great books.
Yeah. But overall, I think, the biggest thing is just having that hard conversation with yourself, being able to assess where you're at right now and swallow that pill if you're just avoiding it, and it's uncomfortable, but it's something that's 100% necessary if you're just totally stagnant and you're just unwilling to make a change.
Yeah, if 6 months ago you said by now I'm going to be in completely different circumstances and you're not, it's because of inaction, or maybe it's because of action and things that aren't serving you. We spend a lot of time and a lot of energy and money, resources doing things that don't pay us back. The return on investment is so poor, or it isn't in a negative way, but just evaluate what you're putting your time and your energy towards, what's draining you, and then what's, crediting those bank accounts.
Mm-hmm. And write it down. Mm-hmm. Write down what you intend to do.
Yeah.
How many times do you think you've checked your written down list of goals this year that you wrote at the beginning of the year?
Admittedly, I don't check those very often.
But at the end of the year, how many of those goals do you think that you've actively worked toward because you've subconsciously created that goal in your mind, that standard that you have to uphold in order to work your way towards those goals?
Yeah, I don't check in on those types of goals. I am strictly like a day-to-day goal girly. I'm
goal girly.
A goal girly. I just know that the things that I'm doing today are going to make tomorrow easier, or allow me to do more tomorrow, or get a little bit closer tomorrow. And I have such a faith in process, and I know that progress happens through process, that I practice what I preach when I say, just look at the stair ahead of you, not the whole staircase.
Yeah. And I think that's the best way to do it, because that's really the foundation of it all, is the day to day. Like, you have to really just get totally comfortable in the mundane, doing the same thing over and over in order to get where you want to go.
I look at my vision board quite a bit. I have it in a place where I can see it regularly, and that's the purpose of it. But yeah, I am kind of a psychopath about my day-to-day to-do lists.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I look at it all the time, but I do assess. Like, I go back and I say, oh yeah, sometimes it's almost refreshing. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot that was top of my list. I wanted to do this. Where am I at right now? I've already gone back a couple of times and I thought, shit, I haven't really started on really making that a priority. And it's kind of a gut check.
Yeah.
You get to go back and reevaluate, because as time passes, like, you have things pop up. I mean, it's life, like we were talking about. Like, we have this false perception that you're always going to be in control, like that things down the road are just going to go exactly according to plan. But then, whenever you reassess, you reevaluate where you're at, it helps give you perspective and see like where you're actually at. Are you trending toward your goal, away from it, totally stagnant? Where are you at? We
also have a false perception that there is more time, that we're guaranteed a tomorrow, and that's not the case.
Yeah, and that's a real gut check. Yeah. I can't believe, we've almost been married for 5 years now, and it's mind-blowing to me. But yeah, this thing that we preach to ourselves, that, I'll have time for that later. Like, I already feel like I've had so much time slip away from me, and it's like frightening to think about.
2023 is almost half over. July will be here before we know it. July 1st is the middle of the year. So if January 1, you stood at the top of 2023 saying all these fabulous things were going to happen, 2023 is going to be your year. Let's evaluate what we've done to put action into those goals. And if we haven't, then it's always a good time to pivot. We can course correct. There's still plenty of time left on the clock, but we have to get moving.
Yeah. Not to say you can't start tomorrow, but time truly is a precious thing.
I kind of contradicted myself saying we don't have guaranteed time, but there's always time left on the clock. But it's a great time to course correct. It's never too late to get started, but it's always too late to wait.
Yeah. Time, man.
It's crazy.
It's a real son of a bitch.
2023 is almost half over.
Yeah. It keeps on rolling. No matter what you do, it keeps on rolling.
I do not want you December 1st to wake up and say, damn, I really wish that I was in this position. I really wish I had X amount saved. I really wish that I would have put forth more effort towards those relationships, that I would have, delved deeper into my faith or my mental health or whatever it is that you want to take action on. You can't just assume that we've got more time to continue pushing off that start date, because the only difference between starting today and then starting down the road is that you're going to be older. There's no difference. Time is going to pass regardless, and you're just delaying a lot of time where you could be stacking up wins and you can be building momentum and gaining progress along the way.
Yeah, and helping others along the way too. Imagine all the other people that you can impact along the way if they see you doing the things that you set out to do. It empowers others to do the same thing.
Ooh, I could do a whole podcast on that one. Let's save that.
I'll shut up.
Time is going to pass regardless. Let's get moving, guys.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we will talk to you next week. If you guys have any podcast recommendations, or if you want us to do a Q&A, we've done a couple of those before, just from your suggested questions, email those to pod@lexijwellness.com. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.